here and see me, okay? I'm still not thrilled with this, but, you know, 'tis what 'tis. If you were here for the earlier stream, so sorry about that. Did not need that to happen. This camera's like a little bit tilted, which I don't love, and I look naked, which I also don't love, but that's fine, I guess. Let me mess with it a touch. Beckworth, thank you for resubscribing. Can you tell how much better I feel right now? I think it's just like a hair crooked. What about that? Okay. Period. Wait, I think that was the opposite direction I wanted to go in. Let's try that. That's too far. It's like everything's so dramatic because it's my phone camera. That's like, what the fuck? Am I going crazy? Okay. We're just gonna scooch over. That's a better solution. Okay, welcome to the freaking party. It took way too much for us to get here. So sorry if you were here earlier. We had many technical difficulties. I'll go ahead and tell the story. Take a journey with me. Oh, I was gonna TikTok live from my iPad. Where's TikTok? So I bought all this shit. I bought fucking Ethernet. I bought fucking Ethernet. I bought, what else did I buy? Oh, you fucking logged out of your account. Great. It's fine. I'm fine. No, I don't want to sign up. Oh my god. Okay, so I bought all new shit for this. I bought Ethernet, I bought a new sidecar for my computer, I bought all of that to try and make this better because I've been so fucking frustrated with the technology shit. And then today I couldn't get it basically because normally Amazon stuff gets delivered to like my door, but for some reason they put it in the leasing office and most stuff gets delivered there. But the fucking problem is if something gets delivered to the leasing office, you can only pick it up during business hours. And obviously I work during business hours, so that is a bit of a problem. Your leasing office sucks. Yeah, it's absolutely horrendous. It's actually so bad. I want to TikTok live while I do this, but my fucking iPad isn't working and whatever. I don't even give a shit anymore. So yeah, basically that happened. I found another Ethernet cord at my apartment, so I'm using that one. And then the problem is I don't have enough plugs to plug it into, so I have to use my phone. My phone is acting as the mic and camera right now, which like kind of sucks. But the quality's actually really good. So this is kind of making me think I don't want to use my phone again because I really hate. I'm using an Ethernet. I think the Ethernet cord is what's making it more clear. I really hate not having my phone. Like I'm worried because like my boyfriend's gonna text me. If someone calls me, it's gonna get fucked up. I feel like I might have posted something on TikTok that I meant to put on friends only, but it's fine, I guess. Like I just feel weird not having access to my phone for that long. So I might use my iPad for future ones. Okay. Me pretending to know, no, I never got into the room. And with all the love and respect in the world, I know that y'all are trying to help, but the people that were like, oh, you should try calling them. I've lived here for 3 years. Like, there is no way. They don't pick up the phone most of the time, and usually when they do, it's someone who does not speak English, which no tea, no shade, but I feel like if job is to answer the phone, you should probably speak the same language as the people calling. So like it's just what it is. I cannot call. There's no one I can ask. They will not let me make a copy of the key. Whatever idea that you have, I guarantee I've had it in the 3 years that I have lived here, and it is just not an option. But my rent is so much lower than anywhere else. LOL at calling. Anyone that was like, you should try calling them. That's how I know you've never called a leasing office. And again, that's not an insult, it's just a fact. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. You're literally braver than the Marines because I sob every time the mailbox is frozen shut. So I have actually cried over this 5 times now. I thought you got your packages sent to your boyfriends because of that. I usually do, but this one, so for Amazon, normally, like, they just bring it to the door. So because it was on Amazon, and they used to not, but then they started because of this fucking bullshit. So for like the last 2 months, I kind of stopped sending stuff to him because Amazon was doing the right thing and being on the right side of history in the context of this apartment building, not in anywhere else. So yeah, it's just been a shit show. Like yesterday, I knew this was gonna happen. It's been a frustrating week. You know, we've all been there. I'm in Ohio and we just had our first heat snap. I'm dying. I just had to take the second blanket off my bed. None of the mailbox keys work at my apartment complex. I'm so glad I don't rent anymore. Landlords are so fucking useless. Why don't you just put delivery notes to leave at your door? So that would imply that the Amazon person reads the delivery notes, which I did that the day I moved in. And they have never implemented it ever. And one time I talked to the Amazon guy and he was very high and a teenager. So I just feel like that's probably not gonna, pan out for me. That's like, see what I mean? People are always like, try this. I have tried it. I guarantee it. Like, with all the respect, I have thought of it. That doesn't even help. Exactly. Only 2 more sleeves till the weekend. Honestly, I'm gonna remove the hinges from door on the little package room. But anyway, I'm really excited tonight's topic, not because it's good, but because it's really interesting. The only thing I could say as an Amazon delivery driver is that we don't really deliver to doors because it can be dangerous for us to go fully into buildings. So I think I figured out why they started delivering to the door, and it's because they started getting here late at night. So they would show up at like 7 or 8 p.m. so that little room is locked. And that's normally when my shit arrives. But the thing that's in that room got delivered at 3 p.m. So I think what they do is, like, I guess if they get there in time, they just put it in the package room because that's easier and faster. Like, my building has over 30 floors. I'm not expecting one person to go do that. That's ridiculous, even though that's what they're doing, and I like it better when they do. But yeah. Just cracked open an ice cold orange smash cocktail. I'm ready. Me going postal in your package room. No, I literally get violent feelings and thoughts about it, but I'm moving soon, so it'll be great. But anyway, I'm really excited for tonight's topic, not because it's something good, but because it's really interesting. If you are not here for part 1, don't even worry, because we're going to do a little overview, and I always, if I ever do 2 parts, each of them can stand alone. Like, I will never do it where there's like a fucking prerequisite, because I hate that shit. So don't feel like you had to watch part 1, and I guess if you only wanted to watch part 1, period. Over 30 floors. Yeah, I live in Miami, so it's a really large building. And like, just for context, I work in real estate. Oh my god, Baja Blast Freeze Cup finally completed the pipeline. Welcome. Just for context, I work in real estate, so like I really know like the numbers of the neighborhood that I live in, and a comp, which is like a comparable, like another apartment that's the same as my apartment, the comp price is over double what I'm paying right now. So that's why, like, my landlord could actually spit in my mouth and I'd be like, that's fine. That's literally okay. I need to tell everyone, beer and limeade mixed together is delicious and refreshing. A Walmart cart corral, I want to support you and I want to agree with you, but I'm feeling quite hesitant about that. I'm going to be very honest with you. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this. 8 minutes in, 3 mental breakdowns in, we're doing amazing. Respectfully, that sounds disgusting. Okay, so before we get into all of the things, I want to give a thank you for today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Skillshare. Skillshare is basically like a better version of YouTube. You can learn shit, and it's like all available online. There's different classes available. It's like just like this one where it's air fryer desserts, and it's just a 25-minute class. And then there's giant modules where you can learn everything that you want to know about Excel. So I wanted to give you a free month of Skillshare. Use it for whatever the fuck you want. They pretty much have anything you can think of. I'm going to show a couple examples throughout tonight's stream, but the link in the chat will be going off like every 20-30 minutes or so, and then it's right below the screen share as well. Period. The sponsorship we love. So thank you, Skillshare. I love working with Skillshare. They're truly one of the favorite brands I've ever worked with. Super professional, super nice, super kind. And the thing that I love the most about Skillshare, this is, I don't know why I didn't talk about this sooner, because I think this is what will turn y'all. Obviously, sponsoring my streams, like, sometimes the topics are not exactly brand friendly. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm talking shit about the government, a lot of companies are like, maybe we don't want to do that. But Skillshare said I can do whatever I want. I asked them, I was like, do I need to talk about a specific thing? Do I need to like stay away from anything? And they were like, we completely trust you. We trust your judgment. And I was like, thank you. Thank you for letting me be like in my creative moment. You know? Like, I love that for me. So yeah, Skillshare's great. If you're looking for a nice place to learn stuff, go to Skillshare. They pretty much have everything from like business to crafting to lifestyle, like meditation, mindfulness type stuff like that. This one is air fryer desserts, which I will be making these. I was like looking for cool stuff for you guys. I wasn't just like being like, let me make desserts, but I did see this. You have a bot. So I do have a robot, but my robot is broken because my robot should be sending the messages by herself. She only does it when I do a keyboard command, and then she'll do it like 10 or 15 minutes later, but then she doesn't keep doing it. So, like, I'm giving her a solid 6 out of 10. Do you guys ever get one of those pimples right under your nostril? Oh my god, I hope he doesn't get mad at me for talking about this, but my boyfriend had one of those. It was like right there, like right there, and he was like, oh, okay, honestly, you look incredible. I'm using a different camera. I'm going to switch to using my iPad as a camera because I feel like this is just giving much better quality, and I'm really enjoying that. I'm going to get a new camera too. So anyway, what was I saying? My boyfriend had a pimple, like right there, and he let me pop it, and it was the most well, not let me, he actually begged me to pop it, and it was the most satisfying pimple pop I've ever done in my entire life. Like, the way it was just absolutely perfect. And like, so let's talk about pimple popping. So I'm definitely not like a Dr. Pimple Popper fan. I think some of the pimple popping videos are like really too far out there, and like that's no longer a pimple popping video, and that is a video of surgery. You know what I mean? What I miss most about my ex is his back knee. That's so fucking real. You're so real for that. What was I about to say? Fuck, it was funny too, and I got distracted. Imagine him seeing that. Like, the only thing you miss is the back knee. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I wish I could turn my head around and pop the blackheads on my back. I need people like you in my life. I need some pimps popped. Oh, get in there. I have the little tools too. Dr. Pimple Popper, but it's literally exploratory surgery. That's what I mean. Like, I like a regular pimple popping like video. I love the blackhead removal ones. Those are my favorite. I actually have like scarring right here from like aggressively trying to remove blackheads. You are not getting back knee together though. My husband likes watching videos of people fixing infected cow/horse hooves. Baby, throw the husband away. Like, what? The hooves. That's sending me. Okay, but anyway, let's go ahead and talk about Waco. So I wanted to give a quick recap of what we talked about last week. Basically, David Koresh came from a super dysfunctional background. He was a member and then later a leader of the Branch Davidians. The Branch Davidians was originally led by Benjamin Roden and was based at the Mount Carmel Center outside Waco, Texas. Here, Koresh competed for dominance against another leader, Benjamin Roden's son, until Koresh and his followers took over in 1987. So basically, in the early 1990s, he came subject to allegations about polygamy and sexual abuse from former Branch Davidian associates, although investigation by authorities found no conclusive evidence. So some people that had left his cult were like, hey, there's some really dangerous fuck shit going on there, and we really, like, it's dangerous, you need to do something. And then Child Protective Services looked into it, and they were like, oh, we didn't find anything. So at the head of the Branch Davidians, a religious sect and offshoot of the Davidian Seventh-day Adventists, Koresh claimed to be the final prophet. His apocalyptic biblical teachings, this is in the game, apocalyptic biblical, include interpretations of the book of Revelation and the seven seals, attracted various followers. Koresh course and what we learned last week. It would behoove you to watch it. Y'all are with the puns tonight. I really appreciate that. Okay. Also, this might just be me trying to feel about myself, but I kind of like when there's this amount of viewers. This is like lower, like previous weeks I've been higher viewership than this. I kind of like it because I feel like I'm actually having a conversation with you guys in the chat instead of it like moving a mile a minute. Like, this is actually kind of a vibe. How many underage wives does this dude have? Because I'm getting the vibe it's greater than 5. We will be talking about that. That is That is if you had said that last week, that would have been a phenomenal shout of the night, honestly. It's a lot. It's a lot of wives. Wait, it's a mini series? There's a couple different series. Wednesdays we were punk. Okay. So some weird shit from last week. I cannot get into all the details of his weirdness, but I wanted to take the most weird things and compile them all together so that you guys really get how weird the vibes are here. So his original name was Vernon Howell. That is his given name. So Vernon Howell had a sexual relationship with Lois Roden, the widow of Benjamin Roden. So remember how it said he was trying to overtake it? This was him like man bossing, as he was like, let me fuck the like leader's widow, and then I'll convince her that me and her need to have a child, and then that's how I'll become the leader of this organization. So he gaslit her into believing that God wanted her to get pregnant with his child, and basically, obviously, that didn't happen. And he would just like guilt trip her, and he would be like, well, it's because you're not letting me believe. It's like, you're not believing. So if you really believing, God would have gotten you pregnant. And then he would also say like, oh, well, you have to believe that I'm final prophet, and like, you need to start letting me preach. So that's kind of how he started preaching to this group, is because he gaslit her into letting him do it. Because he was like, when she like wasn't getting pregnant, because obviously he convinced her, he was like, well, if you prove to God that you know I'm the prophet by letting me preach, then you'd be getting pregnant. That was like his whole plan. Also, Sad Bagels 98, thank you for subscribing. Cougar Mary. So Lois's son George Roden wanted to be the next leader and considered Koresh an interloper. In 1984, Koresh announced that God had instructed him to marry 14-year-old Branch Davidian named Rachel Jones. They ended up having 2 children. Basically, he was beefing with George Roden, and then George Roden like forced them out of town. So Koresh and around 25 followers set up camp in Palestine, Texas, which was 90 miles away, where they lived in buses and tents with no running water or electricity for 2 years, and then Lois died in 1986. Delusion is thinking you're getting pregnant at 60. I told y'all this shit was fucking crazy. I told y'all it was crazy. So in 1987, Roden, the son of the original leader, exhumed a body from the community cemetery. He said that he was just moving the cemetery, which I thought, like, I'm not religious, but I kind of thought the whole point of a cemetery is that you don't move it. Look, God is us at this point. This man needs to Stanley to yell at him like he yelled at Ryan for talking to his underage daughter. Oh my God. The 80s was such a sweet spot for cults. How old were his wives? Because the vibes are under 18. So his first wife was 14, and then that was his only legal wife. And then at one point in the cult, I'll explain it more later, but he was like, God wants me to have all the wives. So it was like just his 14-year-old wife, and then he had wives of a ton of varying ages that he like got all at the same time. So a lot of them were underage as well, but a lot of them were also not underage, because it was like a lot of them. This stream has everything. Cults, creepy grave robbing. 14, OFMG, I wore bows in my hair and cried over my friend smoking weed. That's valid. Okay, so anyway, basically this guy digs up this body, and then David Koresh is like, oh, he digged up a body. So Koresh sees the opportunity to seek criminal prosecution by returning to Mount Carmel with 7 armed followers, attempting to photograph proof of the exhumation. Because basically he went to the police, and the police were like, we're not going to go arrest him just because you say he did this. Like, if you don't have proof, we can't fucking do anything. So that he went there armed. So then Koresh's group was discovered by Roden, and a gunfight broke out. When the sheriff arrived, Roden had already suffered a minor gunshot wound and was pinned down behind a tree. As a result of the incident, Koresh and his followers were charged with attempted murder. But then at the trial, Koresh explained that he went to Mount Carmel to uncover evidence of a criminal disturbance, and then Koresh's followers ended up being acquitted, and in Koresh's case, a mistrial was declared. Because basically, he went to trial and was like, well, they were digging up a body, and then the judge looked at Roden and was like, were you digging up a body? And he was like, yeah, I was. So then the jury was like, what the fuck? So then they just declared a mistrial, because they were like, well, I don't fucking know, is I think basically their law. Yeah. So then in 1989, Roden murdered Wayman a deer with an axe blow to the skull after a deer stated that he felt like he was the true Messiah, and that's when Koresh and his followers reclaimed Mount Carmel. So that 2 years that they were like living the trees, rather than him just being like, let me start my own cult, he was just like plotting to take back over the original cult. Goody Proctor, who did you see digging up a body? That poor jury, I would have loved to see their faces. Oh. Just Vale, thank you for resubscribing and side-eyeing all of them. So, now that you know, like, the vibes of how he got to be powerful, it's a lot more complicated than that. Part 1 is on YouTube if you want to watch it. I kind of want to explain the vibes inside of the account. So, former followers that women had to wear long blouses and no makeup or jewelry was allowed to be worn, and Koresh would tell them where to sleep and what food they could eat, and sugar, flour, processed flour, and dairy products were all forbidden. And the reason he said dairy products were forbidden is because he said, oh my god, y'all being my robot for me, I love to see it. Because he said that because babies drink milk, we shouldn't have it because it's meant for babies. But I don't, like, this is what I wonder. How the fuck did this guy get anyone to listen to him? Because if a grown man looked at me and said that, I would be like, yeah, breast milk is for babies, and like one can argue it's weird that we drink cow's milk, but cow's milk is not for babies. Like, why would, like, babies can't even have cow's milk. So I don't get it. Also, no butter. He really called milk drinkers little bitch babies. Maybe he was lactose intolerant and he was just projecting that onto everybody else. So former followers said the compound had no running water, heat, electricity. I have gotten mixed reviews on this. Some people say at some points it did, at some points it didn't, but overall it seems like they're down bad. And they had Bible study 3 times a day, and this is what's important. He believed that the group would someday be under attack by the U.S. government, so they began to start stockpiling guns and ammunition. So the fact that, like, the government should have known that and, like, operated with that in mind, because he, for years, he had been telling his followers, the government is going to come for us. The government's going to try to kill me. You have to protect me. They taught every single person there how to use a gun, including small children. It really was their culture and, like, their center belief that one day this great test of faith would happen. And David Koresh would tell them, like, I mean, they couldn't have dairy. I'm assuming they didn't have electric or running water. So David Koresh would tell them, like, you have to be prepared to run through a hail of bullets for God. You have to, which meaning himself, because he felt like he was the next Messiah. So, like, these people are mad brainwashed. So here's where shit also gets weird. Koresh asked his followers, including married couples, to embrace celibacy. Then Koresh claimed all marriages in the group were dissolved and that all the women would be his wives if he wanted them, even though he was only legally married to Rachel Jones. And his logic in this is he said, God has told me that I need to produce children because I'm the next Messiah. So he's basically saying, y'all can't fuck your wives because then you might produce a non-Jesus ass baby. And I want to produce Jesus babies in my fucking building. So I'm the only one that can be fucking. That was his logic. God would never do me like that. God loves me. Is your cup a Stanley? Yes, it is. It's, I don't remember the color, but I like it. It's blue. He just wanted all the women and milk to ourselves. There's always a Messiah, just never a guy. So yeah, this is who David Koresh is. This is what the cult is like. People who weren't here last week learning all that information within 5 slides. So yeah, if you weren't here last week, roll call if you were here. You missed the recap of last week, so I hope you were here last week. Nick Cannon, is that you? Did you see that Nick Cannon fucking threatened Taylor Swift? He's just a guy. Hit him with your car. Okay, glad most of us were here. Awesome. We love to see that. Caught on YouTube. This comment section. I love comment section. My mom was gagged by the Waco siege in her break room. It was the only one I missed in months. Honestly, you're fine. Room. Okay. The fact that Nick Cannon is a match for the Swifties. No, the way Nick Cannon was like, I think I should have my next kid with Taylor Swift. Like, it was a fucking merch collab or something. Like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? That's really weird. weird and creepy, and I don't like it. So, who is the ATF? The ATF is the main player of today. Before we get into the investigation, I want to explain who the fuck these people are. They are a part of the United States Department of Justice. It is the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosive, commonly referred to as ATF. So, what the fuck is ATF? This is also in the game. It's going to ask you what ATF stands for. So, let's go ahead and get into talking about the investigation. On June 9th, the ATF opened a formal investigation and a week later classified it as sensitive. The documentary Inside Waco claims the investigation started in 1992 when ATF became concerned over reports of automatic gunfire coming from the Mount Carmel compound. There's a very mixed reviews on when this investigation started, to the point that different government websites were saying different things. Like the ATF website, they gave the earliest date, and then on like the Waco history government websites, it said much later. So I don't really know how long the investigation was. I don't even fucking think they know how long the investigation was. I made a funny ATF joke and the chat censored me. I'm sorry. ATF, absolute twiddle fucks. There it is. We got it. All right. So on July 30th, ATF agents David Aguilera and Skinner visited the Branch Davidians gun dealer, Henry McMahon, who tried to get them to talk with Koresh on the phone. And Koresh offered to let the ATF inspect the Branch Davidians weapons and paperwork and asked to speak with Aguilera, but Aguilera declined. This is something David Koresh has done multiple times. He will try and be very cooperative with law enforcement. So, like, they discovered when they took over Mount Carmel after that George Roden guy went to prison, they discovered a meth lab, and he reported it immediately and had the police take everything out. Like, he was like, we're going to stay on, like, perfect page. We're going to have our paperwork order, whatever. Because I guess he didn't want to give them a reason to do anything, is his logic, which I can get. So, Sheriff Howell told reporters regarding law enforcement talking with Koresh, just go out and talk with them. What's wrong with notifying them? But that's not what the ATF did. They refused to speak with them. And then the ATF began surveillance from a house across the road from the compound several months before the siege. Their cover was noticeably poor. They said they were college students, but they were in their 30s. They had new cars that were all registered to the same address that was miles and miles away. And they were not registered at the local schools. And then they did not keep to a schedule that would have fit a college student or anyone being employed. They were literally just sitting in the house peeking out of the blinds. The investigation included sending in undercover agent Robert Rodriguez, whose identity Koresh learned, but Koresh decided not to reveal that. So they have Robert Rodriguez for a few months going in there. I think this is actually my next slide. Oh, here it is. So I tried to look up more info about Robert Rodriguez, but I couldn't really find anything. So I put it in ChatGTP, and she knew, and ChatGTP matched what I saw in the documentary. So that's good enough for me personally. Was this their first job ever? Probably. I love lives, but I love YouTube. I need to rewind 15 seconds to them. That's very valid. I don't watch that many things live. So Robert Rodriguez was an experienced undercover agent with the ATF. He was assigned to the Waco job, so he began his months-long undercover operation. No, not as a biker gang. He protected them from a biker gang one time. But anyway, he befriended the Davidians, and he spent weeks at the compound gaining the trust, and he was involved in ChatGTP. See, sometimes she gets stuff wrong. It's saying he was posing as a member of a biker gang. That didn't happen. There was one time that, like, he helped them with a biker gang situation. So sometimes she's a little wrong. She's not perfect for everything. So anyway, he gathered intelligence on their behavior. So their illegal activities, their stockpiling of weapons, whatever. And basically what they were doing is they were buying semi-automatic rifle or semi-automatic weapons and turning them into automatic weapons. And that's illegal because when you buy a semi-automatic weapon, I believe in Texas, you don't need a permit, but to buy an automatic weapon, you do need a permit. I'm going to ask ChatGTP to write fan fiction about Koresh. Oh my God. I love ChatGPT in an F the establishment way, but I hate it and I'm trying to help your brains grow it. That's exactly how I feel about ChatGPT. I think it's very dangerous, but also I use it because it's really helpful on some specific things, but I think it needs to be regulated. Anyway, I digress. So, he gathered intelligence on them, During this time, he witnessed and participated in various religious ceremonies. You don't need a weapon for a semi-automatic. You don't need a permit for a semi-automatic weapon. Well, they're in Texas. Keep that in mind. It was either that you don't need a permit or a different type of permit. I can't remember. I'm not a dealer. I don't know. But anyway, he was like trying to involve himself from a religious perspective because he was posing as a college student. So he was like, oh my God, missed stream last week because I was getting a puppy, but this week I'm watching it with the puppy. Oh my God. But anyway, he was posing as a college student and he was like, oh, I want to learn about Jesus. I want to learn about God, whatever. And that's why they were talking to him. They were trying to recruit him. So, despite the danger and isolation he pursued, blah, blah, ChatGPT hyping this man up. So, the warrant gets obtained by the ATF. So, using the affidavit filed by Aguilera, who was the OG guy that refused to talk to him, that alleged Davidians had violated federal law, the ATF obtained search and arrest warrants for Koresh and specific followers on weapons charges, citing that the many firearms that they had accumulated. So the search warrant commanded a search on or before February 28th, 1993 in the daytime between 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. The ATF made a claim that Koresh was possibly operating a methamphetamine lab, which he was not, to establish a drugs nexus and obtain military assets under the war on drugs. So they basically, I think ATF was like, damn, we could really have our moment. Like, the ATF was like, this is gonna be a fucking movie, dog. And they're like, let's get some military grade equipment. And because of the war on drugs, you could do that. Like, if you were investigating drugs, look at my finger bleeding. Do you see that? Ew. She's a little baby. She's only 9 weeks old. I'm trying to get her to not trust the government. Very young. Oh my God. Can we know her name? Yeah, what's the dog's name? Love Italian Grands. Oh, it's an Italian Greyhound. Do you genuinely think David Koresh believed he was Messiah, or do you think that he wanted other people to believe that? Do you think he believed in God? I do think he believed in God. I think that he had mental health disorders and would enter times of mania where he genuinely did believe that. And then I think in other times he did not believe that, but he made a conscious decision to keep it up. So maybe he was lying to himself and convincing himself that it wasn't mania and was like, that's when God's speaking through to me. I think it's impossible for someone to 100% believe that. I think it's just human nature, but I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. So anyway, although the ATF's investigation focused on firearm violations, not illegal drugs, they did request assistance from the Drug Enforcement Agency and the Department of Defense, citing a drug action based on a recent delivery to the compound of chemical instruments and glassware. Written testimony from a former compound resident alleging how had told him that drug trafficking was a desirable way to raise money. Several current residents who had prior drug involvement. There were some people who had been addicts who were living here. But my logic is, like, a lot of times people with addiction issues also can fall prey to other exploitative situations. And so it makes sense that someone at the end of their rope dealing with addiction would join a cult that does provide shelter and food, even though it's so dairy. And some people did use it as a method to sobriety. So I don't think that's necessarily that weird that there's multiple people, and especially it's like several. It's not like it's all of them. And 2 former residents were incarcerated for drug trafficking crimes. And then the National Guard's overflight thermal images, basically that means they fly the plane over and then they see what areas of the building and what are hot and what areas are not. So like if you flew over a freezer, it would be really blue. If you flew over a fire, it would be really red. If you see blobs of yellow, that's probably people walking around. Like they can just tell like the temperature of the building basically, and it can help them figure out what's going on in there. A lot of AA meetings take place in church spaces. Yeah, exactly. It provides hope for the vulnerable. No drugs, no dairy. Couldn't handle either of those. Is AA religious? AA, it depends on the groups. Some groups, like, because AA meets in little groups, some groups are very religious and some are not religious at all. I've seen AA that's dedicated to queer individuals. I've seen AA that's held in non-religious spaces. It's very, very mixed. And a lot of people have mixed feelings about AA. It's not inherently religious, it's held in churches, so sometimes everyone in it will be a part of that church, so it like naturally is going to become religious, is I guess the answer. But the actual content of AA is not. My dad regrets his A. He said, I wish I discovered weed instead. He said it, not me. Anyway, moving on. So although the the National Guard's thermal image flight showed a hot spot inside the compound, possibly containing a methamphetamine laboratory. So what I'm wondering is how you got from hot spot to meth lab, because that could be literally anything. Like that could be a kitchen, that could be like a fireplace, that could be... There's so many things that it could be. There's so many things that are hot. AA doesn't work as a 12% long-term sobriety rate. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people dislike AA, but I think almost every treatment for addiction I've ever seen has a very, very low success rate. One, because addiction is very hard to treat, and two, because something different works for everybody. And I think AA, like this might be a controversial take, but I have seen the people that are most successful with AA are upper middle class white men who are religious. And if that's a method that some people are using to get to sobriety, awesome for them. I wish that it wasn't preached as the end all be all, like this is the best thing ever. Because like you said, for a lot of people it doesn't work, like with any program. So I don't know. I hate that it's offered as like the only solution to alcoholism, because I think it's a lot more complicated than that. Hey, off topic, but to subbing to someone we don't get commercials. Yes. Thank you. I wasn't sure. Yeah. So that's my thoughts on AA. I had an uncle, he's fine, who is very committed to AA. He leads AA now. He has gone to an AA meeting almost every day for the over 20 years. And it worked awesome for him. He's actually really, really funny. I feel like y'all would like him. One time when I was little, he said, I need to tell you something. You're pretty, you're white, and your parents got a little bit of money, and your uncle's a lawyer. That means you can do whatever you want. Use it wisely. And like, he was fucking real for that. He was literally fucking real for that. They even have AA meetings on cruises. Exactly. But he was so real for that. And he is a lawyer. My dad's solution to alcoholism was nearly dying. Can he adopt me? If you knew some other stuff, you might say no. He's a really nice guy, though. He's just kind of chaotic. There's one for kids of alcoholics run by the same program. It's called Al-Anon, I think. Morgan and Morgan, not him saying with great privilege comes great responsibility. AA is almost completely free as well. You gotta want to be sober. Yeah, exactly. He's so funny. He was like, he always says, I was a great alcoholic lawyer, because he was a practicing lawyer and an alcoholic, and he's just really funny about it. I like when old people are funny. Call him. I never talked to him. Anyway, so censorship era. The ATF had planned a raid for March 1st, 1993 with the codename Showtime. The ATF later claimed that the raid was moved up a day to February 28th in response to the Waco Tribune's The Sinful Messiah, which was a series of articles the ATF had tried to prevent from being published. Beginning February 1st, ATF agents had 3 meetings with Tribune Herald staff regarding a delay in publication. The paper was first told that the raid would take place February 22nd, then they changed to March 1st, and then ultimately an indefinite date. So ATF felt that the newspaper had held off publication request of the ATF for at least 3 weeks. In a February 24th meeting between Tribune Herald staff and ATF agents, and the ATF could not give newspaper staff a clear idea of what action was planned or when. So the Tribune Herald said, we're going to publish the stories, including an editorial calling for local authorities to act. And then personnel of the Tribune Herald found out about the imminent raid after the first installment of The Sinful Messiah had already appeared on February 27th. A chicken parking lot, gonna have to rewatch this. I keep getting calls at my job. Literally block them. Hang up. Blocked and reported. Tell the customers to go away. So here's their little series. Here are the titles of them. You can access them online if you want to see them. You can Google it and they'll come up. It was free. I think it was free. I only looked at a couple. But The Sinful Messiah Part 1, Part 2, religious student Mark Brulot introduced to Texas cult. A long troubled road led the Branch Davidians to Waco. Howell closely directs grim daily life. You can see it's just kind of like general of what we just talked about in these articles. So here are some excerpts from the articles. Howell's followers have come to 77 acres near the elk community, Australia from Australia, New Zealand, Canada, England, and Hawaii, and throughout the continental United States. The end of the world is near, they believe. Howell 33 is their salvation. They pay dearly for those beliefs. A former Branch Davidians like Mark Brillo, a one-time confidant of Howell's. An 8-month Tribune Herald investigation that involved numerous interviews with Brillo and more than 20 other former cult members, and a review of court records and statements to Howell to law enforcement officials revealed complaints that Howell abused children physically and psychologically, boasted of having sex with underage girls in the cult, claimed the divine right to take every man's wives, and had at least 15 or so wives. Authorities have not acted on complaints for various reasons. Some officials said former cult members making allegations have not appeared in person to swear out a complaint against Howell, though they have mailed in sworn statements to local, state, and federal authorities. Other officials say they need evidence, not allegations. Former cult members in Australia pooled their money to hire a private detective, Jeffrey Hossack, to lodge their complaints to authorities. Hossack said he believes the authorities will only act if someone is killed. Baja Blast Freeze Cup, thank you for subscribing. So here's what was in those articles, which happened really quite before the raid, but very close up to it. I also think it's interesting that, like, if I was in the ATF, which I would never do, obviously, but if I was in the ATF and I met these journalists, I would be like, we need you as a fucking consultant on this right now. Like, you know what these people are up to. You know what these people are doing. You've been investigating this for 8 months. Like, you are going to be very helpful here. How should we go about this? Tell me about their culture. Tell me about their norms. We did talk about the undercover officer. We'll talk about him again at the end. So, I just think it's crazy that the government fumbled back like that. Like, they should have hired these journalists. That would have been very helpful. It's okay, don't apologize. Also, before we get into kind of the next chunk, I wanted to again say thank you to Skillshare. Skillshare is our sponsor for today. You can use the link. It's in the chat right now, or it's at the bottom of my page, or it's on the screen right now. Skillshare has classes. I gave you a free month, so for free you can learn anything that they have on here. Here's one of the classes. This is a very crafty one. It's modern embroidery, beginner to pro. So apparently it starts with like an easy thing and kind of gets up from there. So not even surprised at how bad they fumbled it. Yeah, the government does fumble pretty hard when it comes to almost everything ever. So then on Sunday morning, February 28th, the ATF decides it is time to execute their search warrant. So the local sheriff, in audio tapes broadcasted after the incident, said he was not apprised of the raid, despite being informed that the Branch Davidians knew a raid was coming. The ATF commander ordered that it go ahead, and even though their plan depended on reaching the compound without the Branch Davidians being armed and prepared. Basically, their whole plan is they were like, we need to sneak up and surprise them. So it was supposed to be a just surprise. That is why it was so, like, confidential, because they said these people have a fuck ton of guns. So if they know that we're coming, we are like, they're gonna, we're coming. They're gonna get fucking armed up and all that shit. So they wanted it to be a surprise. It was not. They did it anyway. And while not standard procedure, ATF agents had their blood type written on their arms and neck after leaving the staging area and before the raid, because it was recommended by the military to facilitate speedy blood transfusions in case of injury. So this is what I mean when I say the ATF was like, this is going to be a movie. They're like, let's fucking do it. And I don't think that sentiment is by the people on the ground actually doing it. Because in the Netflix mini doc, one of the ATF agents that actually got shot and survived was interviewed, and he said that, like, they were terrified. He said that they all held hands going in. Have you ever seen the fucking cops hold hands with each other? It takes a lot for me to feel bad for police. Maybe they were jacked up for cops and robbers. They didn't even think about this. It's naive to think that they won't use them. They did all that, but had no second thought. Hello. They had endless automatic weapons. Maybe they can get in with the military and collab on peace, just like every Hollywood executive. So, how did David Koresh get tipped off that this raid was going to fucking happen? Any advantage of surprise was lost because a TV reporter who had been tipped off about the raid, I guess they fucking told this guy, asked for directions from a U.S. Post mail carrier. So this TV reporter was like trying to find the compound because he knew there was going to be an ATF raid and wanted to cover it, and he couldn't figure out where he was. So he saw a USPS truck, which it was Sunday, so you should have known that he was not on an official business. And who else would be around this area? And it was David Koresh's brother-in-law, and many Branch Davidians did work regular jobs outside of Mount Carmel. They had to be paying for this shit somehow. So basically this guy was just driving his little car. It had the USPS thing on it, and this guy was like, hey, how do you get to Mount Carmel? And the guy was like, okay, why? And he was like, oh, they're doing an ATF thing over there. And then he was like, okay, and then like ran home. Wait, what are we talking about? I'm literally the news reporter. The Netflix doc is so good. Yes, you should watch the Netflix doc. And the Netflix doc has a ton of footage that I don't have access to because I'm not Netflix. So yes, I would recommend watching the Netflix doc. But anyway, so Koresh told undercover agent Robert Rodriguez that they knew the raid was intimate. Not intimate. So Rodriguez, like we said, had already infiltrated the Branch Davidians. So he was just like, oh, and he made an excuse and left because the Branch Davidians were saying, like, oh, they're coming. David Koresh was like literally preparing for this. So when he left the compound, they were praying because David Koresh was like, let's pray. But Robert Rodriguez knew that they were going to get ready. You know what I mean? Did ATF know there were kids in there? Yes, they did. So what was I? Robert Rodriguez knew that they were going to prepare because he was like, these people have been planning for the apocalypse literally for fucking ever. There's no way they're not going to seize this opportunity. So he like runs out and goes to his boss and is like, they fucking know, call this shit off. They know it's coming. And then his boss was like, well, what were they doing when you left? He said they were praying, and that's why they were like, well, we're not going to cancel it if they were just praying. And he was like, no, but like, I know they're going to go get their guns. And they were like, well, you didn't see it, so we're going to go. I find it interesting that the people making those calls are almost never the people that might actually fucking die. Horrifying. So, even though when Robert Rodriguez left, they were praying, Branch Davidian survivors have written that Koresh ordered select male followers to begin arming up and taking up defensive positions, while women and children were told to take cover in their rooms. So basically, Koresh's plan is like, everyone get in your corners with your guns, whatever, be loaded, all of that. Oh my lord, what a time to come in. And then Koresh told them, I'm going to try and speak with the agents, and what happens next depends on the agent's intentions. So Koresh said, I'm going to open the door. I am going to talk to them. So again, Koresh has shown time and time again, he is trying to be cooperative with law enforcement, I think because he doesn't want to give them a reason to fuck with him, essentially. So the ATF arrived at 9:45 a.m. in a convoy of civilian vehicles containing uniformed personnel in SWAT-style tactical gear. They were basically using like trucks that looked like they were hauling materials, but inside, instead of like grain, it was ATF agents. But Mount Carmel is 90 miles out, or not 90. Mount Carmel is outside of Waco, Texas. This is a very rural area. You do not have a convoy of trucks going in here. Just, you know, that just literally makes no sense. So shots get fired almost immediately. ATF agents state that they heard shots coming from within the compound, while Branch Davidian survivors claim that the first shots came from ATF agents outside. A suggested reason that may have been logical is there may have been accidental discharge of a weapon, possibly by an ATF agent, causing the ATF to fire from automatic weapons. So we don't know who fired first. And then other reports claim that the first shots were fired by the ATF dog team that was sent to kill dogs in the Branch Davidian kennel. This makes no sense to me. I had not heard this anywhere else. Only this one article said that. I feel like they might have honestly been reaching there. And then 3 helicopters of the Army National Guard were used as an aerial distraction, and they all took incoming fire as well. So during the first shots, Koresh was wounded. He was shot in the hand and the stomach. What did they think? They were attack dogs. What did the dogs do? Exactly. What did the fucking dogs do? But anyway, David Koresh got shot, and I feel like he played himself in a way because they were like anti-medical care. So they were doing like holistic remedies on him. So his shit was like infected. It was smelling bad. Also, like they don't have running water and shit. So I'm sure he wasn't keeping it clean. But he did survive these shots. Branch Davidian Wayne Martin called emergency services, pleading for them to stop shooting. Martin asked for a ceasefire, and audio tapes record him saying, "Here they come again. That's them shooting. That's not us." So, very much not great from the beginning. I was going to read this, but it's kind of boring, and I think I'd rather just watch the video. So I think we're just going to watch the video. But basically, it just describes in detail, like, where everyone is and on what sides of the building. But we'll just watch the video, because I'd rather watch it. Here, let me watch the video, and then I'll go back to that. Okay, here's the little video. Trigger warning, gun violence. Here's them trying to enter the building. You can see it's literally like a war zone. And there's not a ton of footage because there was just that one guy there. Can you hear this? So this guy is in the Netflix doc and he got shot. Isn't this terrifying?
Go back car and get me another tank something.
I was not even aware ATF was this tactical. I don't think they are. I think that's part of the problem. See, it's a literally war zone. He lived. The guy that just got shot lived. He's an old man now. He just... These are quite literally the worst tactics. Okay, so that's a video from it. Now let's look at the timeline. So 9:45, ATF arrives at Mount Carmel. ATF agents are there to execute the search warrant. 9:50, they attempt to enter the compound and are met with gunfire. We don't know who the fucking gunfire is from. ATF agents take cover and return fire. 10:30, ATF calls for backup from local law enforcement. ATF sends a helicopter into the compound to provide cover for agents on the ground. The helicopter is shot down by Davidians, killing 2 ATF agents. I don't think the helicopter actually crashed. I think they were able to land it. 12, the ATF calls for more backup, including military equipment and personnel. And then at 12:30, a ceasefire is declared, and that's when they start negotiating. At 4 o'clock, the Davidians allow ATF to retrieve the bodies of the agents killed in the helicopter crash. And then 5 p.m. Oh, it did crash. And then 5 p.m., the Davidians agree to let the wounded ATF agents leave the compound in exchange for a promise that ATF will leave the area. And then at 6 p.m., remaining ATF agents withdraw from the compound, leaving 4 agents dead and 20 wounded. And then at 7 p.m., the FBI takes over. So this is kind of what's going on right now. This is really like a everybody is the asshole situation. Yeah, it really, really is. Everyone is the asshole. So here's a partial transcript of when they called 911. So David Koresh says, "This is David Koresh. This is who, sir? David Koresh, Mount Carmel Center. We're all being shot. We're being shot all about here. Where are you? Where am I? I'm at Mount Carmel Center. Okay, hang on." And then the sheriff gets put on. So props to that 911 operator. She was like, "Oh, you're who?" I'd be like, "Yep, no, absolutely not. I'm not dealing with that." The FBI coming in like a mom when you got too loud at the sleepover. And then the sheriff says, "This David, okay, David, the notorious, what'd you go and do that for? You brought a bunch of guys out here, and then Koresh, in the midst of gunfire, began preaching from the Bible. So he starts they're calling the police. Originally that was like, they're shooting us, there's women and children in here, yada yada yada. So it's a whole entire mess. The ATF don't be like, why are they being like So here's some pictures. Here's some of these fucking tanks that they used. Here's the pictures of them entering the compound. Here's them trying to get the wounded soldier, or not even soldiers, the wounded ATF agents out of there. They're acting like it's soldiers. Here's another picture from that video. Here's again another screen grab from that video. There's not a ton of media documentation of this, just because there was not that much media there when this happened. You can see they're carrying him out on a stretcher, carrying this guy out. Very terrifying. It was like a war zone. And again, these are ATF agents. This is not like Marine SEAL Team 6 or whatever. So here's the live report from February 28th, 1993.
The cult, actually called, known as the Branch Davidians, is an offshoot of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. They broke off from the church and moved out here from Los Angeles back in 1935. But despite the longevity of the cult in and around the Waco area, very few Waco residents that we spoke with had ever even heard of this cult before today. The piece of John Zanter Sunday morning was
so here's some footage.
Literally when gunfire erupted a half-mile down the road from where he lived. How many gunshots did you hear?
It was quite a few, you know. Couldn't really say how many it was, but he knew it was something that wasn't normal.
Despite the tragedy, Zanter says he doesn't mind having the cult members as neighbors.
If they mind their own business, we mind our own, they got a right to be there too.
Many Waco residents had never heard of the Branch Davidians before today.
I mainly just wanted you to see the footage of the area.
Since the 1930s. Had you ever heard of this group before today?
No, I have not.
And how long have you lived in Waco?
All of my life.
Others were horrified by the news.
It's kind of unreal. I mean, you know, it's being so close to Waco, and especially that.
Oh, it's scary.
Okay, so locals. I just kind of wanted you to see. What did he say? It got cut off. No. I like the one guy who was like, they got a right to be here. So, men being mad at their jobs from day one. Steve Harrell states in the documentary Waco Rules of Engagement that the ATF only withdrew after they were out of ammunition. ATF agent shot Harrell about 45 minutes into the shootout. The volume of gunfire started to slacken. We were running out of ammo. The Davidians, however, had plenty. In all 4 ATF agents, Steve Willis, Robert Williams, David McKeon, Conway Charles LeBleu, had been killed in the firefight. Another 16 had been injured. After the ceasefire, Branch Davidians allowed ATF dead and wounded to be evacuated and held fire during the ATF retreat. And then the 5 Branch Davidians that were killed in the raid were Winston Blake, Peter Gent, Peter Hipsman, Harry Jones, and Jaden Wendell. 2 were killed at the hands of Branch Davidians after having been wounded. Their bodies were buried on the grounds. So, like, they were buried within the complex, like, not inside, but you know what I'm saying. So, nearly 6 hours after the 11:30 a.m. ceasefire, Michael Schrodinger was shot dead by ATF agents who alleged he had fired a pistol at agents as he attempted to re-enter the compound. So, the Davidians slaved for letting the killed and wounded be moved. I felt that too. I was like, damn. Because we would not have done that for them. You know what I mean? Like, obviously the whole situation is fucked up and they should not have been doing any of this, but like, we would, if the roles were reversed, we absolutely would not have given them that same courtesy. We really would not have. So, ATF agents established contact with Koresh and others inside the compound after they withdrew. The FBI took command soon after the result of the deaths of the federal agents, placing Jeff Jamar, head of the Bureau's San Antonio field office, as the site commander. And then the FBI hostage rescue team, HRT, was headed by Richard Rogers. So at first, the Davidians had telephone contact with local news media, and Koresh was giving phone interviews. This is how you know that this motherfucker is a narcissist, because the federal government is trying to kill you, and you just got shot, and your first instinct is to call the news and get interviewed. Like, nah, get the fuck out of here with that. Get the fuck out of here with that. Absolutely. 51 days. Yeah, we're only on 31 of 61. So then the FBI cut their communication to the outside world. And for the next 51 days, communication with those inside was by telephone to a group of 25 FBI negotiators. The final Justice Department report found that the negotiators criticized the tactical commanders for undercutting negotiations. So, in the first few... A Greyhound parking lot, thank you for subscribing. At Tier 1 6 months in advance, that is fucking sexy. That is very big dick energy. That's the same energy as when you ask your boyfriend, like, hey, do you have any cash on you? And he hands you a $100 bill. Same energy. It's like, oh, okay. You know? Anyway, the first few days, the FBI believed they had made a breakthrough when they negotiated with Koresh an agreement that the Branch Davidians would peacefully leave the compound in return for a message recorded by Koresh broadcast on national radio. The broadcast was made, but then Koresh told negotiators that God told him he should remain in the building and wait. So we are not going to listen to the entire sermon, but we do have the sermon. It's 57 minutes.
David Koresh. I'm speaking to you from Mount Carmel Center.
I'm so sorry.
The first thing that I would like to introduce in our subject is the reason for the revelation of Jesus Christ. In the book of Revelation, commentary states the what?
Yeah, I cannot handle more than 27 seconds of that. It is literally just exactly what it sounds like. Dude, if you're gonna be a cult leader, you have to at least have a cool voice. Lame. No, that's really valid because, like, he has no fucking stage presence or drip. How many people do we think actually listen to this? So I feel like maybe a lot because it was right after the raid. So, like, I'd be like, yeah, what is this motherfucker talking about that all these people are in there? But I feel like if you just put this out as a podcast, I don't think it would get that many views. You know what I mean? So he made that, they released it, and then he was like, I actually want to stay inside the building and wait. But despite this, soon afterwards, the negotiators managed to facilitate the release of 19 children ranging from 5 months to 12 years old without their parents. However, 98 people remained in the building. So they were able to facilitate the release of children. They were like, yeah, keep letting them out. They were basically telling him, we'll give you a platform if you let these kids out. I don't know, religious nonsense is kind of popular, valid. These people, he did get people to join a cult. We shouldn't underestimate him and his podcast abilities. But anyway, they did negotiate for some of the children to be released. And this is why I want you guys to watch the Netflix documentary if you want to, is one of the women who released her children and ended up later leaving herself. She is very much still in this cult. Like, her mind is still in this cult. You can absolutely tell from the Netflix documentary. And she says, like, everyone's always asking, why didn't we release all the kids? And she was like, you understand, we thought we were releasing them to, like, the devil. David told us that the devil controlled the world. So I thought I was releasing my children into unsafeness, but David told me to, so that's why I did it. Like, the way she described sleeping with him, exactly, it was literally a no from me. It was super fucked up. It's super, super weird. So it's like, she's kind of like defending why they didn't let out more kids by saying, well, I didn't even want to let out the ones we did let out. I think that she is mad she lived. I think that she really thinks everyone who died there got immediately ascended to heaven and she fucking missed out. Oh, what is it called? Some people say that a man having sex with underage girls is a crime. Some people, like the government. I think that's exactly what she thinks. Why is chat censored but not the screenshot? That's actually hilarious that it doesn't censor it on the screen. That's like literally the whole point. I think she just wants to be with David. I do too. She needs help. She needs therapy. I think it's just called Waco. I think so too. Anyway, what was I? So then they started interviewing the kids that got out. They were interviewing them for hours at a time. During this siege, the FBI sent a video camera to Branch Davidians and a videotape made by Koresh's fathers. Koresh introduces his children and wives to FBI negotiators, including several minors who claim to have had babies fathered by Koresh. Koresh had fathered 14 of the children that stayed with him at the compound, and several Branch Davidians made statements in the video. On day 9, Monday, March 8th, Branch Davidians sent the videotape to show the FBI that there were no hostages and that everyone was staying inside on their own free will. This also included a video message from Koresh. So here are, we're probably not going to watch the whole thing.
We have no one telling the world.
Oh, it's the 2-minute one.
Side, watching them live.
She's the one that's in the documentary, and it's literally like she has the exact same takes. She has not formed a single new opinion.
It's astounding. Before you judge us, make sure your own life is clean.
During the early stages of the negotiation, we were concerned about the welfare of everybody in there, so we asked them if they'd be willing to send out a videotape. And David kind of seized on the opportunity.
Roll the tape. Let's take a look.
David, anything you'd like to say? First of all, I'd like to thank the
Zoom in.
Negotiators.
I'd like to share with you
See, he's been shot.
my family, and we just thought we'd kind of break the ice and allow people to see just exactly what kind of people we have here.
Isn't this
start
spooky?
off first of all with my oldest son. His name is Cyrus. What's over here? Son?
David loves promo. He's the original influencer. He wishes.
How old are you?
7.
7. Say hello to everybody.
Hi.
Hey, Adam. The camera right there.
Did Cyrus survive?
Nobody on this tape survived.
Depressing.
Later in the tape, he actually brings out the daughter that David, had with Steve Snyder's wife.
Come over here.
But Steve's behind the camera filming this whole thing. And we were all just kind of taken back. Finally registered the magnitude of
Getting cross-faded for this was a bad idea.
This guy exerted over those people.
There was some criticism that this video was not made public at the time, and the notion is among critics that the FBI didn't want to see what appears to be happy children inside this compound. Is there anything to that?
He's only in his 30s.
First of all, we don't conduct our investigation in the media. So if there was a delay at releasing the tapes, that probably was because of the ongoing investigation.
ATF, you boys are wrong. And if there's any question whatsoever,
Broken clock's right
kids
twice a
are
day.
Wimmer and Bob, damn you, I tell you, you keep your damn gun in your holster. Start with me. You catch me on the side of the road somewhere, you come and argue with me. You come pointing guns in the direction of my wives and my kids, I'll meet you at the door any time. And I'm sorry some of you guys got shot. But, hey, God will have to sort that out, won't he?
God will help you sort that out. Imagine receiving this. I'd be like, oh my god. He is unsettling. That is the word. It's just very unsettling. Be fucking for real, David. His name's not even David. His name is Vernon. Vernon fits him way better. So the negotiators' log show that when the tape was reviewed, there was concern that the tape's release would gain sympathy for Koresh and the Branch Davidians. Videos also showed 23 children still inside the compound and child care professionals on the outside prepared to take care of those children, as well as the previous 19 release. I've seen very, very mixed information about this as well. I've seen some people saying there was no one from CPS even there. And then I've seen some people saying CPS picked up the kids from the FBI. I've seen very mixed things, but they were keeping the children together, which I think is one of the very few things they did well. I was surprised to hear they didn't just immediately put all of the kids into the foster care system. They did house all of them together in I think it was like a church or a group home or something, and had people taking care of them, and all of them were with each other. So I think that's the only glimmer of like government action being right here. I was expecting him to seem more charming. I think we all were. Where was I? As the siege continued, Koresh negotiated for more time, allegedly so he could write religious documents he needed to complete before surrendering. His conversations were dense with biblical imagery and alienated federal negotiators who treated the situation as a hostage crisis. Among themselves, negotiation teams took to calling Koresh's words Bible babble. So they would be like trying to talk to him about stuff. They'd be like, how is you guys' food? Do you guys need any water? And like trying to figure out the situation, and he would just be like, in Corinthians 20:48, like, I don't know the Bible, so that was probably offensive. But he would just be like babbling about the Bible, and they were like, motherfucker, we're trying to get stuff done. The negotiators tried their best. I will grant them that. So, always fucking milk. So Koresh had previously allowed children to leave the compound, so the FBI offered to deliver milk if more were released, and Koresh refused the deal. But the FBI decided to send the milk in anyway, and instead got something else. They planted listening bugs in the milk cartons and the styrofoam containers. It was very chancy. Recalled Jeff Jamar, the on-site commander. You could send them and you didn't know where it would end up, which, like, where's the worst place it would, like, I don't see the big chance you're taking here. One of the bugs found its way into a room with Koresh. Some of the talk was mundane. He's yelling for Rachel. David says, keep those kids under control. They won't be singing that today. Other talk was more troubling. Let me send some guys up there to blow their heads off. The bugs also allowed agents to get a read on the reaction to an initial face-to-face meeting between Koresh's deputy Steve Snyder and FBI negotiator Brian Sage. Steve Schneider. Brian, I liked, man. What a person. I liked his personality. I believe he was 100% sincere. I saw concern in his face and eyes. I really, I believe what he's trying to do. The breakthrough didn't last long. Koresh didn't permit any more in-person meetings. So the FBI was also communicating a lot with Steve Snyder, who appeared to be like a little more level-headed and a little more stable. The true purpose of the milk case. Let's start using the term Bible babble when politicians start complaining about the gays in years 2023. So, speaking of the Bible and the gays, this is what I find really interesting. I don't really know the Bible, but I read this one time, that there's a verse about where it says, man shall not lie with man, and that is what people say, like, God hates the gays. That's people's defense for that. I read somewhere that if you translate that correctly, like if you go back, because the Bible's been translated so many times, and y'all see fucking Google Translate, it's not perfect. So if you actually translate it, apparently that passage was about man lying. It was like, man shall not lie with married man shall not lie with adolescent boys, because men were being men and sexually assaulting and abusing children. So that verse was saying, like, fucking cut that shit out. It wasn't about adult man to adult man. It was about married men abusing small children. You sound like my aunt when she started drama this Easter. That's always what I'm going for, is an aunt starting drama at a religious holiday. That's always the energy that we're trying to go. They translated it in the homophobic way in the 60s. Whoa. Are you telling me that church leaders have misconstrued the Bible? Alrighty, so this is what I think the ultimate failure of the government is that they had too many captains. The FBI had two teams working, the negotiators and the hostage rescue team. They were often at odds with each other. The hostage rescue team wanted to go in there like Marine Team 6. That's what they are trained to do. The hostage rescue team is trained to rescue hostages. That's the lens that they're looking at the situation with. The negotiation team is trying to peacefully negotiate and diffuse the situation. So these people really have the same goal, but they have completely opposite strategies that are actually interfering with each other. So negotiators felt hamstrung by the hostage rescue team because they would make aggressive moves, like blaring music, crushing Davidians' cars and guard shack in the midst of delicate discussions with Koresh. So think about, like, you're on the phone with this psycho, Bible babbling, and you're like, I understand. Yeah, we all care about the people that we love. That's what I'm trying to do, David. I'm trying to make sure that everybody we love gets out safe. Just how you want your people you love to get out safe, I want that for them too. We're all committed to safety. We all just want everyone to get out. And then the fucking hostage rescue team starts driving tanks over their cars. So then he would be like, get your fucking guys. And they'd be like, I'm sorry, I'm telling them not to do that. I don't know why they're doing that. So, like, any trust that the negotiators were able to create between themselves and David Koresh, any trust was immediately violated because the other members of the FBI were doing opposite things. At the end of the day, it's bad leadership, it's bad communication. This is the fault of the leader. I am not going to blame the hostage negotiators, like the negotiation team on the phone, and I'm not going to blame the hostage rescue team because they were both trying to do their jobs. They were not being given clear enough direction to do their jobs. So the hostage team, meanwhile, felt the negotiators should have pressured the Davidians more by denying them food and water and cutting the power. See what I mean? Some people say they had power and some they didn't. I've also read that in some parts of the building they had power and in some they didn't, which makes no sense to me. That led to a lot of tension. Here's one example. So Brian Sage, the FBI negotiator and supervisory senior resident agent. On occasions, I made trips up to tactical sites located right out front of the compound. There was one time there was a notion on one of the portable outhouses that said Sage is a Davidian, obviously had been written by one of the tactical guys. Frontline asked a member of the hostage rescue team, James McGee, about it, and he chuckled and said that would be very symbolic of the frustration. There was a high level of frustration. So they're both very frustrated with each other because the hostage rescue team is like, you are literally giving this motherfucker every single thing that he wants. Why would he do what he says he's going to do? Let's just fucking bust in and get as many people out as we can. And then the negotiators were trying to like basically gaslight him and girl boss him into letting people out. And this might be a controversial take, but I think either group could have been effective on their own. Like, I think if you had really given the hostage team and like, you know what to do what you need to do, sneak in the dead of night, fucking kidnap the people out of there. Like, I think that could have worked. And I think it also could have worked if you had no tactical other than like defending the perimeter to like, what's the word I'm looking for? Contain the situation. And then just had 90% of the communication be purely verbal negotiation. I think either one of those would have probably had some level of effectiveness. So as the siege wore on, like we said, these two factions started developing within the FBI, one believing negotiation to be the answer, the other believing force. For instance, one of the things they were using was sleep deprivation. They would have all-night broadcasts of jet planes, pop music, Buddhist chanting, and the screams of rabbits being slaughtered. They also had dentists drilling on teeth. Outside the compound, 9 Bradley fighting vehicles carrying tear gas grenades and ferret rounds, I don't know what any of this means, began patrolling. The armored vehicles were used to destroy perimeter fencing and outbuildings and crush cars belonging to Branch Davidians. Armored vehicles repeatedly drove over the grave of Branch Davidian Peter Gent despite protests by the Branch Davidians and the negotiators. So this is what I mean when the negotiators are like, just fucking leave the graves alone. Like, it's pissing them off. It's not getting anything. There's no point to it. Imagine being a toddler in that environment. As soon as they started drilling the teeth, I'd surrender. I'd be like, hi, I'm coming outside. Please don't shoot. Hi, we are good. We are all good. Fucking mess. So Gary Noser was the chief hostage negotiator for the first half of the siege. According to a 2018 interview, he was removed from the case 25 days into the standoff because other members of the FBI thought of him as an impediment to those who wanted to take a more aggressive role. Noser also pointed out that the agency called him into headquarters on the final day to watch the tragedy on the monitors. I watched the fire, I got angry and walked out. I got more angry than I'd been in my entire life. Because imagine you spent like hours and hours staying up all night, working yourself to the bone, trying to get these people out. You are the only one that is successfully getting people out of this building. This guy negotiated to get multiple children out of this building. He had nothing, and he got children out of this building. He's the only really person here that can say that. Like, him and the other negotiators got those kids out. None of the other shit did. Because they didn't send the kids out to protect them. They sent them out as a bribe. Like, he was able to understand the psychology going on here and figure out how to make it work for them. Because other people are like, they'll send the kids out. They want them to be safe. They don't think it's safe out here. They think it's safer in there. They want their kids to literally die in there with them to get ascended to heaven. They're not going to send them outside. Like, it bothers me so much that they didn't have like a psychologist here. He knew it could have been different. He knew that with enough manipulation, and if you did it slow and over time, you get these people out. And yeah, it's going to be fucking expensive. It's people's lives. What do you want to do? And I don't know why, but I felt like if Taylor Swift was in charge, these teams could have worked together. Because I will grant, they needed weapons there. Like, these people were heavily armed. You could not go there with no weapons. But it's the use of them. We got impatient and just want to torture them. So we sent out the one guy who's been useful so far. Crystal, history teacher, you honestly have been crushing it with the chats. You are probably going to get chat of the night tonight. But I just feel like Taylor Swift would have been able to be like a level head here. We need Kris Jenner on this. Honestly, you're right. She for sure could. Like she could, like, she I'm not even a stan, but I think Taylor Swift would use the appropriate amount of force, because Taylor Swift has like gotten sassy and clapped back with people, but I don't think she would use excessive force. My inner teacher's pet is crying. Good. Also, again, before we get into the like actual siege, thank you again to today's sponsor, Skillshare. Another great Skillshare class I saw. Learn how to knit. This one is literally a basic headband. I picked this one because I hate when like learn how to knit videos and it's like a purse or last shirt. Like a small headband seemed really realistic as a first project. So if you want to learn how to make a headband, there is the link will be popping up in the chat momentarily. I gave you a free month of Skillshare. Thank you for sponsoring today's stream, Skillshare, and let's go ahead and get back into it. So, 2 out of the 3 water storage tanks on the roof of the main building had been damaged during the original raid, and eventually the FBI cut all power and water to the compound, forcing those inside to survive on rainwater and stockpiled MRE rations. Criticism later leveled by Schneider's attorney, Jack Zimmerman, at the tactic of using sleep and peace disrupting sounds against the Branch Davidians. The point was this: they were trying to have sleep disturbance, and they were trying to take someone that they viewed as unstable to start with, and they were trying to drive him crazy. And then they got mad because he did something that they think was irrational. So despite the increasingly aggressive tactics, Koresh ordered a group of followers to leave. 11 people left, and they were all charged as material witnesses. One person was charged with conspiracy to murder, including one of the mothers was sent to prison. The children's willingness to stay with Koresh disturbed negotiators who were unprepared to work around the Branch Davidians' religious zeal. So exactly, they did not have a religion expert, they didn't have a cult expert, they didn't have the people who know what's going on and like would understand this. So as the siege went on, the children also were aware that the earlier group of children who had left with some women were immediately separated, and the women were arrested. So even though they kept the kids together, the women were arrested. The only kids that I found like evidence of that had been separated is there were a couple children who had parents that were not a part of the cult, so the other parent came and got the child. The other ones did stay together. So I don't understand why the FBI arrested the mothers and then was shocked that more kids didn't want to come out. The fact that they arrested them instead of sending them to therapy is crazy. Exactly. Like, I get you don't want to just be like, oh, okay, have a good day, go on your merry way, but like you couldn't have like done like a 72-hour psychiatric hold or something. Like, I feel like that would have been my starting point. I'd be like, okay, we're gonna do a 72-hour psychiatric hold, which I think is very warranted, and then let's figure out how we're gonna keep this person here after that. Like, you know, there's a lot of ways that we could have done a lot better here as a nation. So during the siege, several scholars who study apocalypticism and religious groups attempted to persuade the FBI that the siege tactics being used by the government were only reinforcing the impression with Branch Davidians that they were part of a biblical end times confrontation and had cosmic significance. This would likely increase the chances of a violent and deadly outcome. The religious scholars pointed out that the beliefs of the group maybe appeared too extreme, but to the Branch Davidian, their beliefs were very meaningful and they were willing to die for them. Koresh's discussions with the negotiating team became increasingly difficult. He proclaimed he was the second coming of Christ and had been commanded by his father to remain in the compound. 1 week before the April 19th assault, FBI planners considered using snipers to kill David Koresh and other Branch Davidians, and then the FBI voiced concern that Branch Davidians might commit mass suicide, just like in the Jonestown situation, and Koresh repeatedly denied any plans for mass suicide when confronted by the negotiator during the standoff, and people leaving the compound had not seen any such preparation. How is he living this long with an infected gunshot to the gut? I don't know. That's one thing, is they would say, like, David, you sound really rough, and like at some point he like wasn't able to walk and stuff like that, like he was being carried around on a stretcher, and they would be like, David, we want to get you out, we want to get you some medical attention, and he'd be like, God is protecting me. I don't know how the fuck he didn't die. Maybe the bullet just grazed him or something. I don't think he said they took the bullet out of him, so I guess that's how. David Koresh of the FBI. The fact that they were like, are you going to commit mass suicide? Like, who says yes to that? When has anyone answered yes to that question? He's surviving on the audacity. If I got an infection in a surgical site, I'd be a goner in under a week. He's so lucky. I don't know if lucky is the word I would first pick to describe him. So, the final assault and the burning of Mount Carmel Center. So, newly appointed Attorney General Janet Reno approved recommendations by the FBI hostage team to mount assault because the FBI hostage team told her that children were being actively sexually abused inside the compound. Sexual abuse was common in this cult, but a lot of the kids had already left, and there's no evidence that it was going on during this time. Like, that was just not the biggest part of the picture, and I think that they used that to really manipulate Janet Reno into approving this, when in fact, like, on the video they showed, all the kids looked happy to be there, and, like, again, there was sexual abuse, and I'm not saying that they're lying. I just think, like, they were painting it as something that it wasn't. And I think that they left out a lot of the, like, biblical apocalyptic shit and made it a very black and white issue for her. Where was I? Reno made the FBI's case to President Clinton, recalling April 19th. What the fuck? This is a different thing. This was a siege in Arkansas. The Covenant, the Sword, and Arm of the Lord siege in Arkansas. President Clinton suggested similar tactics be used against the branch of Davidians. It was ended without loss of life. It was by a blockade without a deadline. So Reno countered that the FBI hostage rescue team was tired of waiting and that the standoff was costing millions per week and that branch Davidians could hold out longer than CSA and that the chances of sexual abuse and mass suicide were imminent. And Clinton later recounted, finally, I told her that if she thought it was the right thing to do, she could go ahead. And then over the next several months, her reasoning for approving the tear gas attack varied from her initial claim. And overall, it just seems like, again, no one was really leading and no one was in charge. So the assault took place on April 19th, 1993, and the branch Davidians were very heavily armed. The hostage rescue team's arms included a bunch of shit. Mainly tear gas is the big thing. The combat engineering vehicles and the tear gas. They wanted to try and force branch Davidians out without harming them. The stated plan called for increasing the amount of gas pumped in over 2 days to increase pressure. Officially, no armed assault was to be made. Loudspeakers were used to tell the branch Davidians that there would be no armed assault and ask them not to fire on the vehicles. Just because you say it's not an assault doesn't mean people are going to take it that way. According to the hostage rescue team, agents had been permitted to return any incoming fire, but no shots were fired by federal agents on April 19th. When several branch Davidians opened fire, the FBI hostage rescue team's only response was to increase the amount of tear gas being used. So I literally don't understand any of this. I don't really even know why I put it in here. It's just describing like the weapons that were being used, like low on 40 Ferret SC round. Like, I don't fucking know. They're talking about weapons. This is not an assault. Why are you throwing tear gas then? So, where was I? I lost my place. So, after more than 6 hours, no branch Davidians had left the building. Instead, they were sheltering in an underground concrete block room called the bunker, and they were using gas masks. Again, these people have been saying they are preparing for the end of the world. So they have this shit. Feels a little rapture-esque, I must say. Exactly. So think about, these people have already been brainwashed, and now David Koresh gets to be like, see, I told you they would attack us for our beliefs. This is your test of loyalty. Like, they were like, holy fucking shit, this man is right. Like, the FBI is literally just helping David Koresh prove his point, which is disturbing. And then around noon, 3 fires broke out simultaneously in different parts of the building and spread quickly. And then footage of the blaze was broadcast by live television crews, and then the government maintains that the fires were deliberately started by the Branch Davidians, and then some Branch Davidian survivors or other expert maintains that the fires were accidentally or deliberately started by the assault, possibly by the types of rounds used by the FBI. So we don't really know how the fires started, but 3 started right around the same time, which to me feels like not an accident. Only 9 people left the building during the fire. The remaining Branch Davidians, including the children, were either buried alive by rubble, suffocated, or shot. Many were killed by smoke or carbon monoxide inhalation and other causes as fire engulfed the building. According to the FBI, Steve Schneider, Koresh's top aide, shot and killed Koresh and then himself. In all, 76 people died. A large concentration of bodies, weapons, and ammunition was found in the bunker storage room, and the Texas Rangers arson investigator report assumes that many of the occupants were either denied escape from within or refused to leave until escape was not an option. So as the building's falling in, getting out gets a lot harder. Where was I? It also mentions that the structural debris from breaching operations on the west end of the building could have blocked possible escape routes through the tunnel system that they had. And then an independent investigation by 2 experts at the University of Maryland's Department of Fire Protection Engineering concluded that compound residents had sufficient time to escape the fire if they had so desired. So a lot of different causes of death here, but you can see it's really super, super sad and super toxic. Trigger warning, evil death, everything. So autopsies of the dead revealed that some women and children found beneath a concrete wall died of skull injuries. And then the U.S. Department of Justice indicated that only one body had trace of benzene, which is the tear gas, but that the gas insertions had finished nearly 1 hour before the fire started, and that was enough time for the solvents to dissipate from the bodies of the Branch Davidians that had inhaled the tear gas. And then autopsy records also indicate that at least 20 Branch Davidians were shot, including Koresh, as well as 5 children under the age of 14. 3-year-old Galen Dent was also stabbed in the chest. The medical examiner who performed the autopsies believed these deaths were mercy killings by Branch Davidians trapped in the fire with no escape. The expert retained by the U.S. Office of Special Counsel concluded that many of the gunshot wounds support self-destruction, either by overt suicide, consensual execution, or less likely forced execution. So that's what I mean when I say these parents were so fucking brainwashed that they preferred their children die in this building with them and get ascended into heaven with David Koresh rather than let them out of the building. He was fine letting his followers burn, but not himself, of course. At least some of the very children got out before, so they didn't die, but everyone else was brainwashed and died for that bum piss man. It's so sad. It really is, and it's so sad because it really didn't have to be this way. Here's a timeline of the whole day. This is super detailed, but you can see at 5:40 a.m. the agents called a Branch Davidian compound to warn that they're going to begin tank activity and advise residents to take cover. Agents say the Branch Davidian who answered the phone did not reply, but threw the phone and phone line out of the front door. And then the FBI hostage team deployed those CEVs into the buildings, and then you can see kind of what's going on. Other notable things: at 9, the Branch Davidians unfurl a banner that says, "We want our phone fixed." So after a couple hours of this, they start to want to have communication again after these tear gas things start coming in, and then you can see it's really a couple hour long of affair. What's going on here? This is very detailed and tiny, but you can see when the fire started and all of that. Okay. So here is a video of the building burning. It's so sad they thought those are the only safe options.
This is a horrible sight from 2 miles away. This is really a horrible sight.
Really bad fire. I'm not sure why there was a cut of that man mowing the lawn. So you can see it's literally a war zone. That is a tank. So how are you gonna tell these people this is not an attack when this is what happened? Look, the tank literally drives into the building to release the tear gas. That's not an attack. So here are some photos of the fire, of the attack, of the center. Here you can see huge flames. There's that tank again. The American flag on the tank just feels so fucking unnecessary. And to me, a big aspect of this is the police, well, you got ours, so we're gonna get yours. This, for the ATF and FBI, was also revenge. They killed 4 federal agents. What was the ATF's intended outcome? I have no idea. And keep in mind, now the FBI is in charge here. There is more of the tanks. We saw this a little bit earlier. Like, this drives into your home and says this is not an attack. You're not going to fucking believe that. And then here's an FBI agent photographed with the remains of the burning building. FBI be like, it's Thomas the Tank. He's friendly. We shouldn't laugh. We shouldn't laugh, but that was hilarious. Yeah, I definitely don't remember people talking about a fucking tank. And so that's what they were saying, is that they were like, it's not an attack because all the tank is doing is throwing tear gas. That feels very attacky to me. I'm feeling a little attacked by that, if we're being honest. And then here is a Waco incident press conference. More footage.
This event was
It is absolutely critical that we do everything humanly possible to learn all the facts as accurately
This is the Attorney General
available to the public. Prior to April the 19th, I received assurances that the gas and its means of use were not pyrotechnic. Since then, I have consistently been told no pyrotechnic devices were used. I will continue to pursue.
This was just wildly mishandled from top to bottom. Exactly.
That is why Director Free and I have ordered a full review of all the facts concerning this matter. I intend the results of the review to be made public, and I will not stop till I get to the bottom of this.
Stimming more than me in a new room. Valid. Yeah, so you have already kind of seen this. Cut back to Janet Reno.
I have no reason whatsoever at this point to believe that the FBI was responsible for the deaths.
I feel like them specifically denying pyrotechnics is us.
For the American people to know.
This is my theory. I don't think that they were like, we're going to set it on fire. But I think that they did not consider that with all of the weapons they were using, a fire starting in this very haphazardly put together building that had a lot of flammable materials was highly probable. So I think it was a ignorance and not intention, which to me is honestly worse somehow. If Kris Jenner and Taylor handled this, the outcome would have been much better. I really believe they're smart, strategic, resourceful, and caring. Exactly. That's why I feel like Taylor Swift and Kris Jenner could have really handled this, like, probably not perfectly, but I think would have been a lot more successful.
That we have pursued every question and pursued it as far as we humanly can to get to the truth.
Stop showing him like that. I don't like it. And then here, hopefully they show a more long shot of this. So you can see it literally drives it into the building.
But in something like this, you have got to constantly pursue every issue and not give up and not get frustrated until you get to the bottom line, which is the truth.
Until you get to the bottom line, which is the truth. Okay, more intelligent and strategic, absolutely. So, the new ATF director, John McGaugh, criticized several aspects of the raid, and then he made the Treasury Blue Book report on Waco required reading for new agents. A 1995 Government Accountability Office report on the use of force by federal law enforcement agents observed that on the basis of the Treasury's report on the Waco operation and views of tactical operation experts and ATF's own personnel, ATF decided on October 1995 that the dynamic entry would only be planned after all other options had been considered and began to adjust its training accordingly. So apparently they're going to retrain. You can't retrain this shit, in my opinion. For example, the agency was aware that the Branch Davidian compound contained flammable materials, but they still used CS gas, a chemical agent. So this gas is believed to have contributed to the spread of the fire, which ultimately caused the deaths of 76 people. So exactly what I'm saying. Like, they did not think of their plan through. Nothing remains of the building today other than the concrete foundation components. The entire site was bulldozed 2 weeks after the end of the siege. Only a small chapel built years after the siege stands on the site. There have been several investigations into the FBI's actions during Waco. In 1993, the Department of Treasury conducted an internal investigation which cleared the agency of any wrongdoing. However, the investigation was criticized for being biased and not examine all evidence. And then in 1995, the Department of Justice appointed former Senator John C. Danforth to lead an independent investigation into the Waco siege. And the investigation found that the FBI had used excessive force and mishandled crucial information. And the report also criticized the agency's decision to use the tear gas. Oh, Janet Reno had Parkinson's. Sorry, Janet, for that one thing. Damn, y'all were all talking shit about her, too. Damn. This is a news story from 1995. An angry federal undercover agent testified Monday that he desperately tried to stop the 1993 Waco raid just before it began, warning his bosses that the branch Davidians know we're coming. When he realizes his supervisors had ignored them, I sat down and I remember starting to cry, stated Agent Robert Rodriguez. That was the undercover guy from the beginning. Stated Agent Robert Rodriguez of the ATF. Rodriguez testified at Monday's House hearings along with two former supervisors who have been accused of lying about his warning. His supervisors, Chuck and were fired after a 1993 report held them largely responsible for the raid in which 6 Davidians also died, and then the 51-day standoff. We talked about that. I saw no reason for the raid to not go forward, Kajan testified. He and Sabin, who were eventually rehired at lower positions, they always are, said Koresh had often predicted law enforcement would come from one day, and they thought Rodriguez had only heard another version of that claim. I didn't feel Koresh knew we were coming, but Rodriguez, sitting at the same table, fumed. They can sit there and lie. Those two men know what I told them, and knew exactly what I meant. Rodriguez was vindicated by the Treasury report, but has never before told his story in public. 2 years I've waited for this. It'll let me get everything out, he said after his testimony. The events were tearing me up inside. So this guy, the one that originally warned them they should not be doing this for years, has been torn up by this and has been interviewed and testified about this. So for some people, this is a story of government overreach. By and large, the public had treated the end of the siege as Waco as like a crazy cult story that got the end it deserved. Like people were like, yeah, kill him, whatever. But just a day after the raid, the President Bill Clinton argued that the FBI bore no responsibility, and he said, I do not think the United States government is responsible for a fact that a bunch of religious fanatics decided to kill themselves. Sir. But for some, Waco is the foundation of a different narrative, a story of unlawful government outrage and the consequences of federal aggression. On the far political right in particular, Waco became something of a rallying cry for those who saw the federal government as a threat. Right-wing anti-government bomber Timothy McVeigh, for example, carried out the Oklahoma City bombings as a direct response to Waco, where he had been an eyewitness to the siege. The other thing I didn't really have time to talk about was that because this went on for so long, they had lots of like civilians just kind of hanging around, like watching it like it was an amusement park. As a 2015 New York Times story looking at Waco's influence today on the far right put it, for right-wing militias and so-called patriot groups, Waco amounts to evidence of a tyrannical, illegitimate government unblinkingly prepared to kill its own people. The specter of Waco has not faded. Right-wing extremists regularly invoke it as the defining moment, proof of Washington's perfidy. Waco can happen at any given time. Mike, a prominent figure in the Patriot movement, told Retro Report, but the outcome will be different this time, I can assure you. So people, right-wing, use this as like the government after them for their beliefs. It was their religion. The government just went in there and killed them. So we're really still feeling the negative effects of this to today. What was that? Okay, so now let's play the game. CSP Seth, thank you for subscribing. Thanks a lot, David. Yeah. So we're going to play the game now. Now let's do the sports one because I like the music. Okay. It's 10 questions. It's trivia about the content we talked about. They're pretty easy. I just sent a link in the chat to join. You can join from your phone. I'm not going to ask for your email. You're not going to receive anything. You're not going to be asked to pay money. You're not going to be asked to download anything. None of that. You can join from a phone on the app. Well, you have to download the app if you want to use it. Or do it from a browser in a phone. You can go to like Safari or Google Chrome and do it in your iPhone. Or you can open it on a new tab if you're on a computer. Whatever works best for you, whatever you want to do. Or if you just want to watch, the questions will come up so you can kind of like half-ass play if you'd like to. So to join, you go to join.nearpod.com and then you're going to enter the code UC8V7. Again, that is UC8V7. And it'll let you pick a little character. It's going to ask you to put in your name. I don't know why it asks for a nickname because it doesn't do anything with it. But when you put in your name, it'll come up on the screen. Mount Carmel parking lot. It's my first time playing. I hope you like it. I'll wait for a couple more people to join. For a while tonight, an hour, 40 minutes. Also, was the quality better this stream? I still need to get the rest of my stuff to finish this setup. But I'm just wondering if like the internet was better because I have the Ethernet now. I know sometimes we've had issues with like frame drops and it being glitchy. I felt like I had less people saying that, but I also had less people here, so maybe that's why. But just any general feedback about the setup, let me know. I think using my phone is definitely the move. Audio was stuttery. Okay. This week was so much better than last. Good to know. So I think what needs to happen, and the disconnect today is the mic. I think I will be using my phone as a camera, and then once my other little thing, or I'll use my iPad, and then when my other little thing, of course it was a dumb moment. Once my other thing gets here, I can go back to my good mic. Awesome. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start the game. There's 31 people in there. Small crowd tonight, very intimate. I kind of liked it. Honestly, this is what I needed. I needed to like reconnect with the core group. Like almost everyone here was a subscriber. Love the subscribers. Y'all have been with me forever. Yes, I am gonna crowdsource for a map. I need to figure that out. It's on my list this weekend. I was out of town last weekend, so I didn't have time. All right, I'm gonna hit start. What did we learn about today? I'm glad you guys had fun. This was the best part of my week. It's always the best part of my week. I'm excited to make dinner. I might abandon you guys and go preheat the oven. Oh wait, no, I don't need to preheat the oven. I'm making that tomorrow. It's okay. We have not picked a topic for next week. I need help brainstorming if you guys are down. I don't know what to do. I have literally no ideas. And I looked through my list and I wasn't feeling anything. Who is the ATF? I needed this. A child threw up on me today. Oof. Are we feeling historical or person? Either or, honestly. Second wave feminism? Interesting. Jonestown, keep the cult theme going. I kind of need a break from cults because I did it for 2 weeks. Oh, the Kennedy family is a good one. More lighthearted. I had a rough day too. Historical event. I agree. So how do you guys feel about like a broad ass historical event? Like I feel like people don't know like how like our world came together. I don't know how to describe it. Like the fucking industrial age. Like people don't know about that. You know? Lots of people saying Kennedys, but I don't really know anything about the Kennedys. I went to get a DQ blizzard, and when the worker flipped it upside down, everything fell out. I hope her day has gotten better. Stop. Poor thing. What did I just say? Everyone's saying I'd be into that, but what did I just say? Oh, the like industrial revolution or whatever? Industrial age? Okay, I'm down. So the second industrial revolution, I'll do like second industrial revolution, labor movement, and education. Like how we turned from like farming people into like the society we have today. Honestly, that's perfect because I know it like up, down, forwards, backwards, anything. And I like talking about it. What if we did the Cold War? The Cold War is too big. We've done a couple things, like the Vietnam War is a good of it. The labor movement will go so hard. Okay, we're gonna do that, I think. Unions, great one. Maybe we'll do another two-part. We'll do an industrialization one, and we'll do a union one. I think that's a really good plan. Okay, you guys feel into this, and I feel into this. Oh, Gold Rush is another good one. That reminds me we're going to talk about striking in the railroad. Oh, yeah, but I never did that. Sorry. Okay, we'll do it. I'm excited now. Let's be topical current events. I'm hyped for next week. I'm glad. I want to get more into the history stuff again. This is so pretty. Someone made this. This is cross stitch. Or embroidery. Someone made this and sent this to me. Woot woot. Yeah, we will be talking about company towns. Fear not. So what was used to try and force more members out of the building? And there are multiple correct noises. Correct noises. Corrected answer. We'll do like an anti-capitalist version of the Industrial Revolution. It'll be very bad. Thomas the Friendly was gonna grab an extra shift next week. Guess it's Thursday's problem now. We could also just hang out. That's true. Okay, so also, I have exciting news. I can't share all of it yet, but me and my boyfriend are gonna be moving, and when we move, I'm gonna be able to stream a lot more. Because right now, my stream stuff is at my apartment, so if I'm ever at his apartment, like sometimes we'll be sitting or not doing anything, and I'm like, oh, I would stream right now, but like I'm hanging out with him and I'm at his apartment, so none of my stuff is there. So I feel like once we move in together and we're at our house and we're like gonna be like there all the time, especially because like he works, I'll like be more on here because I'll be able to just like pop in and do like hangout times like I used to do more. So I'm very excited for that. And that'll be in like summer. I don't know when this summer. No, he doesn't like to be on camera. He said he feels shy. Alright, Tate, nice job. We see Liz in her first place, then a Davidian Child's Milk Cup, Mount Carmel Parking Lot, Laura, Tyrant Lizard King, Sociori, Trash Sunsets, Lucy, Janice Ian, Seth Hall, Vendetta, 76, Waco Parking Lot, Sammy B, Ginny, Hellas Nor, and the dairy the Davidians couldn't eat. I will scroll through the rest. Branch Davidians, FBI rated parking lot, Mount Carmel parking lot, Tanya Harding Shoelace again. Alright, thank you last time to today's sponsor, Skillshare. This is a great company. I love working with them. I love that they let me do whatever I want to do when I'm doing my stream and they're sponsoring it. I wanted to share one last class about them. They have an hour-long e-commerce essentials, how to start a successful online business. I wanted to give you kind of lots of different things that they have. So we talked about they have headbands. We talked about they have the knitting classes. They have the cross stitch classes. They have Excel classes. They have business classes. They have mindfulness classes. They have pretty much every single thing you could possibly think of. Let me put that link in the chat one more time. Even if you know you are not going to pay for this, feel free to use the 1 month. I do not get penalized at all if you cancel after your free month. I hope you love it and continue to buy it, but I'm truly is a gift of a free month that I want you to use. We'll make my in-laws watch with me next week. Oh my God. Any recommendations of things to watch to prepare? I don't think so. But if I remember anything, I'll post it. Thank you so much for being here. This is the highlight of my week. Thank you for always sticking with me through technical difficulties. My fucking new cords are in my apartment building. They're just locked to leasing office, but I can get them this weekend. Thanks for participating. Thank you for being here. All of the things. See you on TikTok. We love, we laugh. See you next week. Have a good night. Bye. Oh wait, I see their mindfulness classes and raise them ADHD diagnosis. I think they have stuff about like neurodivergency here. Oh wait, I forgot. I'll give you a sign. If anyone had used that they were saying, like you said, Newports, like Sigs. Ha. of nowhere. Very weird. The frame drops are going up like hundreds at a time. I last